I'm BMacVR and this is Ultrawings 2, and that intro way oversells the pace and intensity of this game. But I don't care, because it's my favorite VR flight game and it was fun to make. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why Ultrawings 2 is my favorite flight game, so stick around. Ultrawings 2 is made by Planet Games and is available for Quest, PSVR, and it's making a landing on PSVR 2 soon. And I have some good news about the PSVR 2 version. It will include the Kodiak DLC at no additional cost. And it's not just a port of the Quest version. It's been completely rebuilt for the PSVR 2. It has improved visuals, custom lighting, extensive HMD haptics, and it won't use reprojection. Thank God. It's going to be 90 or even 120 Hz native. And despite playing it a ton on PCVR already, I'm going to buy it again on PSVR 2. If you haven't already, let me know in the comments what your favorite VR flight game is. Now, let's take a look at what makes this game soar above the others. Ultrawings 2 is the perfect mix between sim and arcade. What I mean is, the planes feel real to fly, the controls and handling bank much closer to sim than arcade. But you don't need countless hours of practice or an FAA license to get these birds in the air. It's such an easy game to pick up and play, but that doesn't mean it's easy to master. So don't let the game's cheerful art style fool you here. Some of the challenges are seriously difficult, but the best part is how numerous the challenges are. There's a surprising amount of content here. The developers have said completing every challenge will take you 30 hours, and if you go for gold, probably closer to 60. And quite honestly, I believe it. I'm utterly shocked at the amount of time I've spent playing this game. Every time I launch it, I think I'm just going to play a few challenges, and before I know it, a couple hours have flown by. Ultrawings 2 has such a one more turn mentality to it. Most of the challenges are short and sweet, and you just keep rolling through them, earning money, challenge after challenge, switching between all the different aircraft, buying new airports, which in turn unlocks more challenges. They just never seem to end. The game is broken down into 4 islands, each housing a regional and international airport. The islands all have a distinct feel to them, with varied and detailed landscapes. There are cities, mountainous islands, and soaring cliffs. The airports serve as your home base and hub for all challenges. Each challenge is tied directly to the 5 or 6 different aircraft in the game, and they provide a nice variety as each one feels different to fly. The power glider is definitely the easiest, while the damn helicopter is the hardest. The cockpit is fully interactive. The gauges give you real info. You use motion controls to steer, fire up the engines, control the flaps, or raise and lower the landing gear. But you do use your thumbstick to control the rudder. Planet Games nailed the motion controls. They are fluid and extremely natural. I never once felt hampered by the virtual flight stick. It's easy to use and effective. I occasionally flip a switch when I don't mean to, but it's not really a problem. Just double check your landing gear when you're coming in. Also, some might find it annoying to land your aircraft as much as the game asks you to do so. It's often, but not always, part of the challenge. I personally didn't mind it, and sometimes it adds a nice layer of depth to the challenge. Like when you're in a power glider and doing a challenge designed around low fuel, and you just hope you have enough momentum to limp home when the engine cuts out. The game does support HOTAS controls, but that requires aiming the pistol with head tracking. So you can still fully play the game and its challenges with the stick and throttle, but honestly, I recommend playing this game seated with armrests, as the motion controls work so well. It's immersive and fun to reach out with your hands and interact with the cockpit, doing stuff like slowly lowering the flaps to reduce your speed and bring your nose up for a landing. Some, however, may find it annoying or frustrating to botch a landing after a tough challenge, and I completely understand that. But for me, it didn't happen too often. Landing is fairly generous, and I like bringing it home because each aircraft is just a joy to fly. The Phoenix is a large, powered glider, and honestly, it's kind of crazy to look at in the headset. There's just this giant engine over your head with a massive rotor spinning a few feet in front of you. At first, it's a little intimidating to look at, despite it being the snail of the skies. The Stallion is a World War II era fighter that has a nice balance of speed and maneuverability with some bite. My personal favorite, though, is the Comet. It's this tiny little rocket glider that feels a bit like a fighter jet. What makes it my favorite, though, is actually the lack of control over the throttle. It's just this little on-off switch. That's it. You get everything or nothing with just a flip. It leads to some really fun and interesting challenges where you manage your fuel by boosting and gliding at the right moment. It almost becomes a puzzle. Next we have the New Hawk, which is a stunt plane that feels both incredibly controllable and incredibly wild at the same time. It's a blast to fly, but it can also be a handful. To round out your hangar, we have the Dragonfly, which is a helicopter, and if you buy the Quest DLC or PSVR 2 version, you get the Kodiak, a heavier racing plane. There are some basic challenges like flying through targets, spot landings, touch and goes, but there are also more complex challenges like shooting down drones while flying through targets. Or using the dart gun to pop balloons, also while flying through specific targets. There's races with the Kodiak, flying through targets in a specific orientation, O-shape style, in the stunt plane, and a whole lot more. And look, I know some of this stuff might not look that exciting on a flat screen, but Ultrawings, more than any other VR game, has taught me just how transformative VR can be. You're in the pilot seat, peeking over the edge of the wing, trying to spot the next objective. And the depth and immersion that VR offers to games like this is really compelling. Flight is just thrilling, and I think as kids we all had dreams of being a pilot, flying a plane or a spaceship on our own. And now you get to live out that fantasy in VR for just $20. And I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. Every cockpit game needs VR support. It just lifts the experience to higher altitudes. And flying these planes and doing these challenges in VR is just a joy. Some may find the challenges repetitive, but I personally didn't, as there are a large variety of them to keep things fresh. The challenges start easy, but soon the difficulty takes off. Even on the Phoenix, things get tough. Shooting balloons and flying at the same time may look simple, but it's not. I'm very right-hand dominant. I fly best with my right, I shoot best with my right. So I use my dominant hand to shoot the balloons and my left to lightly glide the plane. I keep the next ring target in my peripheral vision while focusing most of my attention on those damn balloons. Just remember to reload and make sure you don't run out of ammo. Oh, and don't let that floating balloon get away. Doesn't sound so simple anymore, does it? And if you fly through the target too soon, it can be rage-inducing. It's frantic multitasking. There's also really nothing easy about the helicopter. As Captain Obvious as it sounds, it flies nothing like a plane. It's all about momentum and understanding where your momentum is currently taking you. And while trying to hit the very center of this target looks simple, it's not. If you could see my face under the headset, it would be a face of total and complete focus. No blinks, dry-eyed focus. And in that, I think we find who this game appeals to the most. The perfectionist. You could easily just hit this giant circle anywhere and move on. But that tiny gold one, it's taunting you. And when you miss it, you are defeated by the ding of silver medals. Disaster is soon to follow. If you're the type of person who needs that gold medal, this is the game for you. But again, it's not easy, as sometimes you gotta bank real tight around buildings or cliffs to hit the next target. And it's these cliffs and buildings that make Ultrawings 2 stand out from its competitors. You could do the same ring course 10,000 feet in the air, but it certainly wouldn't be as fun. It's fun and thrilling to weave around the islands, under the bridges and the stone archways, or go scorching down the city block between the skyscrapers. Back in the day, if you'd ever played GTA San Andreas and flew the Harrier jet through the tunnel, you know what I'm talking about here. Now, imagine doing that same thing from inside the cockpit of the jet glider immersed in VR. The game world in Ultrawings 2 isn't as robust and populated as GTA, but it still feels alive and vibrant. You'll often see other planes flying about, cars driving around, and even boats splashing in the ocean. BitPlanet Games was very smart to keep this flight game close to the ground. It encourages you to fly in and around the detailed environments, and it's done brilliantly. Other flight games can sometimes feel empty or boring if they're set in an open sky or a generic landscape. Dogfighting games can often be nausea-inducing as players are forced to endlessly circle their opponents in order to land a shot. Thankfully, Ultrawings 2 doesn't suffer from this problem. The game's combat missions don't often require players to engage in prolonged corkscrewing dogfights. This game has a ton of combat missions, and it's finally time to talk about it. The combat missions add in a great mix of variety to this package. They are numerous and, like their non-violent counterparts, are fairly short. But the combat is not the main fixation of the game, but just another layer of variety. You're going to do some dogfighting, taking out ground targets, calling in airstrikes from the chopper, or lobbing grenades handgun style from the Phoenix. These missions are the closest thing you're going to get to a story in this game, but honestly I'm glad it doesn't have a story because that might ruin that one more turn feel. Oh, and I nearly forgot to mention that this game also has multiplayer dogfighting. Yeah, you and a couple buddies can strap into the cockpit and duke it out Top Gun style. Like the combat missions, this just adds another great layer of variety to the game. And there you have it, that's Ultrawings 2. It's a game that really surprised me and taught me a lot about the power of VR. I highly recommend this game because if it clicks with you, there's a lot of content here, as I still play it to this day. I mostly now use it as a filler game when trying to sync up schedules with friends. But just a word of caution, if you do use this as a filler game, your friends will probably end up waiting on you for just one more turn. Thanks again for watching, and if you liked this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know how I did in the comments. And to see more content like this, consider subscribing. Thanks.